What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Hour right here, brought to you by and presented by, of course, MyFandom and the MyFandom app. But first, we are on ad-free shows, and of course, shout out to all the amazing content you could find on adfreeshows.com. Dave Sturchio alongside Josh Shernoff. Josh, how are we feeling today on this Wednesday, November the 6th? Let's leave all the other stuff to the other people, and let's talk some wrestling and unite the world, and let's just talk wrestling.
Because if there's one thing that unites the world, it's pro wrestling. Yeah. Wrestling fans are the most divisive people really in the entire world. Let's talk AEW and WWE and how we can all just get along. No, man, this beautiful November 6th day here in Pennsylvania feels
great,
like a
great state.
Oh, the great state of it feels like August. Right now it is hot. It is hot, man. What is going on?
No, listen, there's a lot to go on and get into today. We're going to get into some, obviously. Crown Jewel comes and goes. Decent pay-per-view, I say, top to finish. Top to bottom. It was okay. And then Raw to follow. And where they're kind of going with that heading into Survivor Series. And, of course, today, I talked to Josh yesterday. I said, listen, there's nothing more compelling, to me at least, than like a top list, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you have lists in wrestling, sports, all these, those are the most heavily debated things out there, is like a top 5 list or a Mount Rushmore or something like that. So today we decided to go back in time with Survivor Series being next on the docket. We decided we're going to go and rank our top 5 Survivor Series pay-per-views, not matches, pay-per-views. So from start to finish, what felt good about that, even if it was one match that made that pay-per-view good. Whatever the case, we'll get into it. But first, Josh, Cody Rhodes is chosen to be the first ever Crown Jewel champion. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like a little less desirable? Like how, like the finish was a roll-up of sorts, right? Like a jackknife type pin, like over whatever. But it leaves Gunther strong. It leaves Cody on his roller coaster of a ride. So your thoughts about the main event, and then I guess we could trickle down.
Yeah, I think that belt was enormous.
Huge.
And I think no one was happier than Cody Rhodes to find out that it was going to be staying in Saudi Arabia and that he was going to get a ring that is way too tight for his finger. So, if you watch that, but I actually think that's really cool. We talked about this on the show before that I've always felt they needed to, and in my mind it was always WrestleMania. Maybe this is a better play, but I like the idea of it being kind of like a Super Bowl, and I like the idea of them having this championship belt, kind of like a trophy, and then they get to wear the ring. I think it's cool.
Perfect play.
It looks good. You and I had the opportunity at Fanatics Fest to see all the Super Bowl rings up close.
And not to cut you off, but we not only saw Fanatics Fest, all the Super Bowl rings, but we also saw every single championship at WrestleMania
WWE World. Yeah,
we've seen it on both sides. We've seen the pageantry that is, and man, there's nothing cooler. Like now you're talking about, like, if you're 5 years, 6 years into a Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel type thing, you might see Cody Rhodes pose with a picture with like a 3-up and say like, I'm a 3-time champion. So that's kind of cool. Me being the football savant that I am, I think it's a very cool.
Yeah, I think that's something that, we are so dialed in to our nostalgia from our generation, right? But it's time to start creating what will be nostalgia for other people. Like we talked about the Undertaker streak. Well, the Undertaker streak wouldn't have been impressive if you didn't get through win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when it wasn't a big deal, when it was just, him and Jimmy Snuka. You know what I mean?
Pick it up on it. Picked it up on like a 9 or something like that. When was the first time they actually mentioned, like, oh, by the way, like he hasn't lost at WrestleMania?
The first time that it was mentioned on camera by the Undertaker was when he defeated Ric Flair for his 10th one. And he did the kind of count, all that.
Yeah.
I remember hearing recently that it was mentioned at an earlier point, just kind of like like an off the cuff thing. I think Vince mentioned on commentary. Bruce Pritchard had said that he thinks. By the way, Bruce Pritchard from Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard on ad free shows. Yeah, they need our plug. But he had mentioned it's probably just someone feeding that to Vince. But yeah, I think that this is kind of cool. Like, you know, I remember, even though it wasn't technically the first King of the Ring, but I remember Bret Hart winning the King of the Ring, and they touted it as the first King of the Ring back then, even though, you know, they had done more. But it was the first King of the Ring pay-per-view. But watching Crown Jewel now with my kids, I'm looking at it going like, you know what, 10 years from now, they're going to be deep into this. And they're the ones who are going to be looking at Cody and go like, well, what makes Cody the greatest of all time? Well, he's, you know, a 3-4 time Crown Jewel winner. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's...
Do you think there's going to be a... I'll mock my own team. Do you think there's going to be a Dallas Cowboys of Crown Jewel? Meaning like Cody wins it the first time, but never wins it again for like 20 years. And they're like, dude, will you get over it? He won it in 24. Like, that's the last. It's been 30 years.
I'm sure eventually. Yeah, eventually you'll have that. But I mean, look, in a lot of ways, we have that all the time in wrestling, right? With like some of these guys that were like champions once upon a time, and then, you know, look, Kofi Kingston. Are we going to continue to go on and on about him being a former WWE champion? Like, yeah, he did it. Look at Sheamus. Sheamus is far from secured as a main event talent. And he's a multi-time world champion. So it's, yeah, I mean, there can be that. But yeah, I think that something like that could happen. I just thought it was cool. I thought it did protect Gunther. I thought it was well done, because that's a really tricky thing to go through. I thought it was well done with the women as well. It's a tricky thing to say, like, okay, how do we do this without really saying the WWE title means more than the World Heavyweight title? And I think that they accomplished that. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Definitely. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. The finish was the way it was, and nobody's looking at Gunther any less than, you know, going into the next, like, I believe on Raw, Damian Priest, if I'm not mistaken, was named the number one contender to the World Heavyweight Championship. So now we're going to get Gunther and Priest again, more than likely, I guess, at Survivor Series. But that'll be a great match, and nobody's going to look at that as the lesser title anymore. I think it's looked as an equal now. They've done enough with that world title. I don't even know how long it's been. When did they bring that back? Like a year ago at this point?
A little over a year. I guess a little over a year, right?
Like they're definitely making it, you know, that championship very, very relevant. The rest of the pay-per-view, you know, nothing went too nuts. We did see the return to the Uso family and the bloodline of Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I want to ask your opinion on that. First of all, I'll be honest, I was kind of taken aback by the fact that match happened with really no build-up.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I said, why is this even happening?
I get that it's a stepping stone, right? It's a stepping stone to War Games, in my mind. So,
sure, but War Games is looking like a 4-on-4. You know what I mean? Or like, so what? Are you going to add a fifth?
I think it's going to be a 5-on-5. I think it'll end up being 5-on-5.
Well, they have about 3 weeks to add members and make it great. You know what I mean? And I think that, I was kind of taken back by the fact that there's even a match that existed. Like, why is Roman in the ring with Jacob Fatu right now? You could have protected that a little longer. You know what I mean? Like, but now they're kind of putting everybody on an even thing. Yeah. So even like, I think Jey Uso was the one that mentioned something like that in his promo, saying like, you, Jimmy, me, we're equal now. You know what I mean? There is no tribal chief. How
about that though? How about Roman Reigns coming out with Jimmy and then Jey coming out after Roman, and just the pop that he had? It was really cool to kind of see. I do want to see Jimmy continue on because right now he very much they keep talking about, we don't confuse them anymore. We don't confuse Jimmy and Jey, and we absolutely don't confuse Jimmy and Jey anymore. But Jimmy is very much looking like the Marty Jannetty of the group right now, of the team. Yeah. And I feel like his promos are not, it's tough to say his promos are not as strong, because I think his facial expressions and stuff are not as strong as and believable as Jey. But Jey's promos are pretty much a bunch of nonsense and yeet. It works for him. It's perfect for him. But you can't really just be like, although he's had some great promo work in the past, but I think Jimmy has the potential to stand out on his own in the way, but you always have to, and I say Marty Jannetty not so much in the way everyone says it, but in the way that if you looked at Jannetty for the remainder of his career, it was the Rockers music, it was the Rockers attire, right?
He held on to every last bit of that.
He was always the rocker, Marty Jannetty in that regard, whereas Shawn Michaels continued to evolve. And I think that when you see people like an Edge and Christian and you watch how they manage to both become world champions and big stars in their own right.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before on who has stood alone. And I think you're right. I think Jimmy has a chance. But listen, controversy is key, right? This is my boldest take I can possibly come up with this whole bloodline thing. I think Roman Reigns is going to turn on everybody.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird feeling because right now, if you look at SmackDown as a whole, how many heels do you have? The Bloodline, really, right? And that's it. Like the Bloodline led by Solo, and I'm like, is everybody buying into this Roman Reigns just getting along with everybody, smiling, kissing babies? Like, yeah, it's cool for now, but eventually, the tribal chief is always going to want to be at the head of the table, and I think that if anybody gets in the way, specifically at Survivor Series, we might see almost like a double turn. Like somebody gets kicked out and Roman's the new dude, and then you got The Rock that gets involved, and then right.
Remember, this has to gear up towards The Rock and Roman. I mean, it has to.
You would think, and I think the final boss Rock, as much as he loves to be the heel, I think the fans, I don't know how they would go. Roman and Rock right now, they might be divided. They might side with Roman. But I think somewhere along the line, Roman's going to get fed up with a lot of this yeet stuff and like all this feel-good shit. And I think that he's going to do something. I don't know where it is or when it's going to happen, but maybe at the Rumble or something, right? But maybe they win War Games or maybe they fall short. I don't know how that's going to play out. And I can't wait to see it. And we can't wait to cover it. But it's like, just give it some time before we all anoint Roman as the next big top baby face, because they already got one. His name's Cody Rhodes, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And every time people are like, they're going to turn Cody eventually. I don't know. I don't know if they can right now because of the things they have in their back pocket, meaning endorsements, Make-A-Wish stuff, all these really good feel-good stuff. They have a face of the company right now, and I'm not sure if they're willing to just part ways with that feeling.
Look with Cena, right?
They never. How many times did you hear that? What's the initial? CHT, right? Cena heel turn. When's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? He's gonna join the NWO.
Cena had said there was even a point where he had gear made, and which I'd like to see what that looked like. But he had some like heel gear made. He was ready to make the turn, and they. So, but then again, look at Roman. He was their white meat baby face. Now he didn't get over in the way that Cody's over. That's the difference. Roman wasn't. So they finally turned Roman heel, and now he's white hot,
Now you're getting what I call the Stone Cold Steve Austin effect. Like that dude is so cool. As bad as he is as a guy, he's so cool that you're going to root for him. Yep. So that's why I feel like Roman can do no wrong right now. He still has the aura. He still has this presence about him. I still think they need to go back to the old music. That's just me.
I don't like that he walks out and then it's silent and then it kicks in again.
It's off timing. And I try to, I went back and I've listened to both theme songs just to build, and it's completely screwed up. You know what I mean? Like the way he comes out.
I don't mind the song. I don't either. Like
but you got right. You got to let it play for a little bit longer. Give those fans that anticipation. Listen, we all know the infamous glass breaks. Austin's going to be coming out like a bat out of hell.
But that's not who Roman is, right? So
correct right now. But yeah, I mean, he's got this aura about him, and now the final boss thing where he's got the electricity, right? And the Undertaker, when he comes out with the gong, it's not until a couple gongs where then the smoke appeared, right? So it's all a timing thing. Yeah. And I think like I'm a weirdo like that. Every time I'm like,
dude, I get it.
Every time he comes out to that music, I'm just like, Okay, you could have just waited a couple extra seconds. Whatever. I digress.
No, I think the match was fine. It was interesting to see. I like how it went with Sammy at the end, kind of with the kick to the face and of Roman. I think that we continue to tell that story, right? That like it was a miscue, but are they on the same page? And there's so many layers to this story. It's so awesome because we just have never had something. It's funny, in the beginning, people were like, I think the Bloodline is going to be the greatest story in the history of wrestling. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really, and now I kind of feel like it is. I don't know that there's ever been and I won't say start to finish because we're still in it. And that's, right. I think, what's going to be telling, right? What is the finish eventually going to be of this story?
We haven't even got the wise man back yet. You know what I mean? Like, we got Paul Heyman. That's going to work itself in there. Are there any other Paul Heyman guys that are lurking in the shadows that might make an appearance, whether it be a CM Punk or a Brock Lesnar or something like that? You just never know where you can go with all this. But it's interesting to say the least. It's must-see television every Friday. And even now they're crossing over a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on Mondays. Mm-hmm. It seems like a couple people play both sides, which is great for the company and great for the brand and great for viewership. But yeah, man, I mean, look, Saudi did what they did. They had a bunch of really good matches.
Yes, Saudi did what they did. we just try to ignore it when we watch the pay-per-views. I'm sorry, premium live events.
Whatever.
I apologize. That was...
Yeah, so, and not for nothing, how many, I don't know if you've noticed this. So listen, full transparency, when football season's on, I typically don't watch Raw live. Like, I always catch it either if I'm somehow awake at the end of the night.
Between watching the games and, 50 tweets an hour, when are you going to find the time to...
Yeah, right, exactly. I got to build a following here, which I lost half of them last night, but anyway, well, I digress. But what I'm saying is, like, I haven't watched.
Those guys can come on over to me at So Says Shernoff. Join me.
Go follow me. Yeah. Much better for your ego. But no, what I'm saying is, like, I don't watch Raw start to finish until later on. But how many times within the last couple of weeks, I'm just like, oh fuck, it's over at 10. I literally forgot that a couple times. I'm like, I'm in the main event. It's like 10:40. I mean, 9:40, and I'm just like, what are they doing? And they're strategically timing it for halftime of the Monday Night Football game, which is great for me because I'm just like, I flip it over and I'm watching. But I forgot all about the whole 2-hour thing, and I think they're still doing a great job delivering quality shit, and it's not too oversaturated. You got the Bloodline stuff, you got the Wyatt 6, you got all these cool attractions that you slam into 2 hours.
Let's talk about the Wyatt 6.
Sure.
Usually, I am not a fan. Even though Wyatt 6 is a gimmick that suspends disbelief just to work, like it has to, right? And I love it. I love Wyatt 6. I love what they're doing. Not a fan of the kidnapping stuff. I've never been a fan of it in wrestling because it always takes me out of it. Because I always go, you're not really going to kidnap someone, right? Like, and hold them against it just takes me out of the story. But putting that aside, right? The fact that they kidnapped Miz and that Bo Dallas is talking to him and they're showing clips from the Miz promising to make Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel big stars.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, not that I forgot, but it was nowhere in my mind. I forgot.
Right. We all forgot.
You know what I mean? Like,
I was like, oh shit!
It just who Bo Dallas is now and everything. Like it just wasn't even in my mind. Like, had you said like, hey, what did the B team do? I would have been like, oh, it was Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, and they were with the Miz for a while. They did it. Like, I would have remembered that, but I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. And seeing that they weren't ignoring that and that they're playing into it, and that I just thought that was so cool.
Long-term storytelling.
Yep.
WWE does not miss when it comes to shit like that. We remember and if you don't remember, they make you remember, and you're like, oh my God. Right. So yeah, what they're doing with the Wyatt 6, I do find it funny though. I'm a big fan only because I've met him and his wife a million times with my days at WrestlePro, Karrion Kross and Scarlett. They're two of my favorite people we've got. Yep. We've gone to Alaska together. Like, it's been a lot of fun knowing him. His promo, his like cell phone promo. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
Hotel room. Scarlett saying like, they kidnapped Miz. He's like, how long ago? And she's like, 20 minutes. He's like, no, he's dead. Like, oh my god, that is so funny.
Yeah, he's phenomenal at what he does. Really? To peel back the curtain just a little bit, we had a show called the Wrestling Showcase, and in 2022, and he was supposed to be in it. He had been advertised as Killer Kross. It was going to be in it, and that championship, where is it? Right there, that hangs there. That was gifted to me by Matt Cardona when he then won that championship, which I then stripped EC3 of and hung on my wall.
Bastard.
But Matt Cardona tore his bicep, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And the plan was, one of the plans was Killer Kross was going to win that championship. And he knew it, and that was like, the whole deal. And I remember Cardona, who was still injured at the time, I remember he goes to me, he's like, what happens if he gets called back? And I'm like, and I'm looking at this, it's like, this was at Ric Flair's last match, so it was a couple weeks before the showcase. And I'm like, I mean, if he gets called back, hey, good for us, right? We put this championship on him. He's supposed to carry around. It's like, oh, look what happens. You put the Wrestling Showcase Championship on, they go right back to WWE, right? I'm like, that's great. Because nowhere in my mind am I thinking this is going to happen so quickly. So much so that he cut a promo promoting the Wrestling Showcase at Ric Flair's last match, did Killer Kross. And he, and then all of a sudden I'm traveling. I forget exactly where I was, but I was traveling, and we're like 2 weeks away from the show or something. And I get like a text from someone who's like, just the video of him returning on SmackDown.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, okay. And then I look, and I've got a message from him, like, give me a call, whatever. And so all I want to say with it is he offered so much to do. Not only did he, of course, return whatever deposit, things like that, apologize for the situation, explain it, which I just kept saying to him, man, like, this little show is not standing in the way of, like, what's he going to do? Go to Triple H? Like, no. I've got this indie show that I have to, but he was like, I'll still come. I can't wrestle, but I'll still come do meet and greets. I'll still all that. And I was just like, I'm like, no, you're good. Go do your thing. But the way that he and I spoke, we spoke that night, and then we spoke a couple days later for about an hour and a half, and just like about life, about what he was up to, like what his hopes were. And, he was, I don't want to say like nervous, but he was like, I guess a little nervous, right? He took a chance. Like, hey, is this good? Didn't work out last time when he was there, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen? To see him achieve what he's achieved now, the match at WrestleMania, how big that was for him to be a part of that. What he's done with this group now, the promos that he's cutting, the character that he's developed, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Not to kill his gimmick, but it couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Look, there's videos out there of him messing around with doing the Jesse Ventura and shit. He's a dude's dude.
Come on, you know what I mean? Chris.
Yeah, you don't tell me you don't have 5 more. It's like, holy
I
shit.
was there, right. Chris.
Yeah. So yeah, the Kross and his storyline is great. He's a great dude. And I wish nothing but the best for that guy. And that goes for anybody who's ever really done good business, and doing good business right now is the Wyatt Six, and they're doing great business with their storylines. And again, you suspend reality a little bit more, right? You're like, oh, I can't believe the Miz is kidnapped, and then like the Miz is spotted outside the stadium. He's like, no, he's not.
It's
but
yeah,
again,
that's the stuff that's kind of tough, but whatever, right? It's a television show.
Exactly. It's entertainment. When at the end of the day, it's all entertainment.
Yeah, I bumped into Kiefer Sutherland one time in Canada on the street.
Jack Bauer.
And what I didn't do was go, whoa, wait a minute. You're in the midst of a 24-hour day right now. How the hell are you here in Toronto,
dude,
when I know that it is only 7 a.m.
And
so I mean, you have to. By the way, super cool guy.
What a great show, by the way. What a great show.
Great. It had its downward, but overall a great show. And God, what's her name?
Chloe?
Yeah.
Damn it, Chloe.
His daughter?
Oh no.
No. What was it? Elijah Cuthbert. Yeah. Man. As my friend, as my good friend Conrad Thompson would say, roll tide. I was in Vegas once.
Let me tell you what I would do to Elijah Cuthbert. And then on top of all that,
I was in Vegas once. And have you ever been in Vegas where you walk down and there's like those people there with these cards that have like pictures of women and they're like slapping them like, it's like, which for those listening, that was me slapping my hands.
Yes, please. Oh my God.
But that's what they're doing with the cards. They're like, going like that with the cards. And
I got it the first time.
And they're like, call this. They're like, and so it's got like a number and it's like, that's the girl that's going to show up. And it was straight up a picture of her.
Oh.
And I'm like, come on. And like all that does is two things. One, it makes me completely doubt any woman on any of those cards. And then also makes me go, but I hadn't really seen her acting much lately. Is it worth a call? I'm kidding. But no, she didn't show up.
Jack Bauer answers the phone. Who is this? It's like, oh my God. Like, this is Jack. Anyway.
What a
segue.
She's
all right, listen.
I got to go think about some stuff. Listen.
I got to go talk to the Lord. I'll be back.
No, but I completely lost track. Oh yeah. So he was kidnapped, whatever. We moved past that. I just thought overall, I thought the show was good. And that was it.
The only thing I could say, and it was during my son's 3rd birthday party, so it's like I can't. Like this 1:00 shit in the afternoons, like that sucks. I hate.
See, and I disagree. And here's why.
Well, listen, your kids could watch it
because my kids just got into wrestling, and now they could watch it, and it wasn't me having to rewatch a pay-per-view the next day. Sorry, premium live event. My God.
What are you?
Never gonna get a job with the Fed. Did I ever tell you that one time? I this guy, old Chuckles, Charlie Hartman, which is one of his aliases. This guy ran a Modern Vintage Wrestling, and he hired me to be a commentator. It's actually I met the GoPro guys.
Nice.
He hired me to be a commentator, color commentator, and their play-by-play guy didn't show up, so I ended up calling the show all by myself.
That happens?
What's that?
So don't you hate when that happens?
Yeah. To his credit, Charlie's credit, he was so thankful that he paid me double. Unlike other places where I got paid less when you weren't there to do commentary, and I did the whole show myself.
Michael Jordan doesn't show up to everything.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
And Michael Jordan doesn't have to show up to everything.
Yeah, and I guess neither does the guy who carries his bags, right? But so I'm there, and I've kind of lost track of what I was talking about. I have no idea.
I don't know. Some guy's alias or whatever paid you down.
Oh, yeah. So it's his alias because he's been to jail like a bunch of times for embezzlement and stuff. But and Charlie, but like, man, the guy, I've never seen a guy sweats through a leather jacket. Like it was unbelievable. But the first time I met him, he's like, yeah. You want to do commentary on the what? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, how are you doing with people in your ear talking? Because if you're gonna have people talking, that's the only way you're gonna get called up to the Fed. And I'm looking at him like, are you what? I'm like, I'm agreeing to do your little indie show. You think I think that this is gonna be like, man, if I knock it out of the park here at Modern Vintage Wrestling, I'm gonna head to the Fed, right?
Yeah.
For those listening, that's the WWF. Yeah, man. So
I have a question for you. Sidebar.
Yeah.
Now that you say the Fed, were you ever, as a growing up a wrestling fan, teenager, were you ever in any like RP online feds, or no?
No, my brother was.
Yeah, you're not. All right, so you're not a nerd like us. But
no, my brother and Calvin Tan were.
Yeah, no, those things were really cool.
Calvin Tan was he was Taz Machine, and he went and he wrapped himself in barbed wire and attacked my brother's character or something. It's still a sore subject that whenever a couple drinks get flowing, that comes up.
We talk about Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah. No, but so I'll never forget that. Charlie was just like, oh man, you gotta be able to take the criticism in your ear and all that. Right? Spoiler, I didn't even have a freaking headset. Okay. There was no one in my ear.
There was a mic at that point. You're just like screaming on the top of your
man.
Well, I'm not over. All right, listen. Survivor Series.
We're the halfway point.
We're at that season. We're in that way. I can't wait for Survivor Series. Is definitely, obviously, everybody knows it's Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, WrestleMania. Those are the big four. Yep. So the big four is one of them is coming up relatively soon, a couple weeks away. So let's rank some of these people. Let's take you down memory lane. Yep. Josh, if you want to start it off, I can counter with one, or I could say that's on my list too, because we decided to do lists, not talking about it. We just have two separate lists. I didn't go in depth that. I just know why it's one of my favorites.
I mean, I didn't go in depth either, so much so that I didn't even make a list, right? But okay. I got my list. But I will say, 6 years ago this month was the first ever So Says Shernoff. It was a special, So Says Shernoff Survivor Series special, and that's a lot of that was the point. And that spawned itself into So Says Shernoff, which is coming back this month.
Yeah, let's go.
And I'm excited for it. It's a show that had. What's that?
I do like the idea that you're bringing back a lot of your old clips. I've seen them online, and I think it's really
they're getting they're well received. Not like our clip about what's that?
I was going to say they're all being received good, except for the people that think that you're talking about current news.
Oh my god!
Holy shit! Kudos to you, and shout out to you for responding. I know it's a copy and paste because it's just like literally. I'm like, he's answering these people. Like, what is wrong with him?
Well,
right now?
So here's part of why I'm answering them, and this is where it gets tricky, right?
Engagement.
If you answer them, and then they answer back to you, the algorithm bumps it up. Like on our TikTok, on the MyFandom TikTok, where we post some stuff from the Wrestling Hour. And people get butthurt about the fact that you don't like the Costco guys being in AEW, and they all missed the point. By the way, all of these marks that were commenting on it completely missed the point. The whole point was that you were saying, man, like they're all like Danny Moff. Damn, it's like, first of all, say any of that to Danny Moff's face, but secondly, like. They didn't understand it. This wasn't about the Costco guy getting like, oh, was he a wrestler? Was he not? This is about you going like, hey, met him before, worked with him. He's an asshole. And there are like a billion other quality people who could have had that spot.
So I do want to say something, and I haven't found the words to respond here on the show. I will break the news that AJ of the Costco guys has reached out to me.
Oh,
sent me a text, not a DM, not a like slide into my Twitter mention. No, he texted me, and he basically told me that he was sorry if they were acting out, if they treated me poorly. He did not notice that, did not feel the same way, but he said he wishes me nothing but success and happiness. Wow. I'm not sure if he added any booms after that, but I will say. From me to him, from man to man on this show, I accept your apology, Mr. AJ from the Costco guys, and I wish you well, and I hope everything does work out for you, and I hope that this ride of fame just keeps going for you. Good for you. I don't buy into it. I can't say that I like it. But the fact that he took the time to reach out, I think it was like late Friday night. I forgot to tell you about it because I was going to screenshot and be like, "No, you were never going to believe who texted me." But I never actually got a chance to respond to him because I get a lot of texts. It gets forced down. I'll probably send him a note. Man. Yeah, I'm a busy guy, but I will say that was nice of him and kudos. Like this dude's probably phone has blown up, but I will say that this was all stemmed more than likely from TikTok and seeing the clip.
Yeah, and listen,
I will say
kudos to him though. I gotta say that's I have a lot of respect for that.
I do too,
because he easily could have looked at that and been like, screw this guy, whatever.
Right.
I'm just not even gonna pay attention to this. The fact that he did that, also the fact that he was man enough to not only say I'm sorry if I did that, but I didn't feel that way, still stood his ground of how he believed he acted, right or wrong. Wow, did not think that this episode was gonna be me going, I have a lot of respect now for AJ the Costco guy.
We'll see if it lasts. I mean, like it's like I said, movement. Not everybody's into it. Obviously, Jimmy Fallon, huge fan.
No, look, you know what though? Here's the thing. Do I want him to have a good, to have success at AEW? Yeah, I do, because I want eyes on AEW, because I want them to be successful. Contrary to what some of the people on TikTok, I didn't get this. It's a couple of white guys knocking AEW. Big shock. It's like, what? Is that a thing?
White dudes for the E, bro.
Yeah, I want AEW to be successful. I'm happy for him to be successful. That the little boomer with him, whatever the Big Justice,
and the Rizzler and all this cast of characters.
Interesting. And then there was the other guy, the
like the White Six, to be honest.
Yeah, there was the Rizzler. Is that his name, the Rizzler?
Yeah.
What was this with the?
Oh no, he's got this little pose that he does. It's just like
yeah.
I don't know,
in 20 years, if God willing, he's still with us. It is not going to be so cute.
He's gonna be doing it as a 20-year-old. Like, oh, I remember you. Weren't you Chunk from from the Goonies? Like, no, wrong fat kid. Sorry.
I think Chunk got in shape.
Survivor Series. Yeah, I know he did.
You know who else did? Ethan Suplee.
Who the fuck is Ethan Suplee?
What?
What did I miss? Sometimes I don't know
names. You know who Ethan Suplee is? Okay, I'm gonna hit you with a couple things. Mallrats, looking for a sailboat. Looking for the sailboat in the Magic Eye, but can't find it. Big dude. Vader's son in Boy Meets World. Frankie.
Yes. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
That's it.
Earl's brother in My Name is Earl.
He was also in a very disturbing movie, off-brand, The Butterfly Effect.
Oh.
Ever see that one?
Yeah. The Ashton Kutcher one?
Yeah.
Great.
That movie rocked me.
Great movie. Yeah, that makes you think. That one makes you think.
It does. Think about Survivor Series, though, because I know we're pressed on that. But anyway, start us off. Josh, put it in. I don't know if you're going to rank them in 5-1 or like, hey, this is on my top 5, whatever you want to say. Start us off with one of your top 5 Survivor Series.
One of my top 5s, I'm going to say 1990 Survivor Series.
It was not on my.
It was just, I wore that VHS out, renting it. Again and again and again. Why I didn't just buy it, I don't know, but I would rent that again and again. That yellow case with Hulk Hogan and his team on there. It was just the 1990. It was towards the culmination of my first full year as a like all-in fan of pro wrestling. So to me, it's nostalgic in that regard. It's a great screenshot of what pro wrestling was in 1990, right? It's still a little bit from the 80s, but we haven't gotten crazy into the early 90s where things can kind of, take a little dip. But yeah, that would be it for me.
All right. I'll take your 1990 and I'm going to go 1998. The Rock becomes the corporate champ. I'm a very big tournament guy. I've always liked tournaments. and the idea that it was time to turn The Rock back to the dark side and join the corporation. I love that. I love that they basically reenacted the screw job with the ring the bell thing.
Yeah, that
right?
hurt. That hurt me.
I know. And I'm not sure if I even put the screw job. I did not. I did not put the screw job in my top 5, even though, again, it's a great moment for any Shawn Michaels fan. But no, Deadly Game was what the one they called this one, and I think that it's on my top 5 for the sole purpose of storytelling and really like getting everybody involved, like McMahon doing the people's eyebrow. You know what I mean? Like you just remember that kind of shit that stood out. So give me 1998 Survivor Series as mine.
So in looking over my list here, I'm debating I'm going to stick with the 1991 that as well. But another one that I'm going to jump out to, I'm going to go right over to 1991 with the Gravest Challenge.
Okay.
I'm dating myself here, but these are the ones that stood out to me. That featured the first ever non-traditional Survivor Series match at the Survivor Series pay-per-view, which was the championship match, Hulk Hogan against The Undertaker, where The Undertaker tombstoned Hulk Hogan. And while Hulk Hogan's head was absolutely nowhere near that chair or the mat, I think it was the thought of hitting his head that severely injured Hulk Hogan. But that one stands out to me in a lot of different ways. It stands out because of that match. The Undertaker, that was prime Undertaker at that time. But also a big thing that jumps out at me there was that was the beginning of the end for the Rockers. Now you have said in the past, your first thing of wrestling was watching the barbershop segment.
Obviously, I went back to see.
Sure.
But yeah,
I didn't know.
Right.
In the moment as a Rockers fan, that was the first time that I remember, and maybe they were planting little seeds on Superstars or whatever, but that was the first time I remember the interaction between the two of like spin around, like knocked him out or something. Like, I don't know. Shawn Michaels accidentally got kicked or whatever the case was. So that one always stood out to me, and just in my childhood, that was a favorite of mine.
I have a trivia question, trivia question. The Undertaker wins the WWF Championship at the time, beats Hulk Hogan. What happened to that title reign?
He lost it back on Tuesday in Texas.
To who? Hogan?
Hogan. Which I believe then...
That was that his first loss, Taker?
I'm going to have to remember. I think there was some sort of tomfoolery shenanigans that went on, and I believe the championship was stripped and then put into the Royal Rumble, right? It would have been put into the Royal Rumble where Flair then won it.
It's the greatest night of my life. Yeah. All right. So
here am
I. All right. So you got 90 and 91. I started off at 98. I'm going a little. Listen, I know it wasn't as popular. I found it to be cool. 2001, the invasion is over. They WWF versus WCW, ECW, in which I believe McMahon has that infamous run out, throw the coat down, and freeze his hand for victory.
Yeah.
I liked the invasion. I really did. I don't know how other people felt about it. Obviously, it's coming off of WCW closing down, and they had to really build within, right?
Yeah.
There was no competition anymore. So it was really hard for them to say, like, okay, we're the only game in town. How do we make this good? You invade the WWF, right? So I think that one alone, specifically like the main event and the WWF coming out on top, you knew that there was no way that WCW was going to take that. And the invasion is basically over with that. And so I like that one. And I'll just go to my next one because it's the following year. And it's for me for 2002 to watch brown pants Shawn Michaels win the WCW or World Heavyweight Championship inside Elimination Chamber. As a Shawn Michaels fan, I'm beaming. I'm like, this is the coolest thing. I never thought I'd see him win another championship. So here he was. But again, horrible haircut, horrible gear. It just didn't feel good to see Shawn win it in that capacity. But again, that one falls into my third Survivor Series of my top 5 is Shawn Michaels also winning the championship again.
So then,
match, but
then I'll give my number 3 is going to be 2002 as well. with the elimination. No, 2002 with the Elimination Chamber and all that. Shawn Michaels went through this little phase, if you remember, where he then was like, he had black tights that had HBK on them, like just like down the sides. He was like trying so desperately not to be the Heartbreak Kid. And to the point where he then went back to the broken heart outfits, but on the back, it even said Shawn Michaels instead of Heartbreak Kid, and then had HBK like in the middle. It was he was trying to reinvent himself at a time when no one wanted him to reinvent himself, right? The HBK hadn't gone stale. People wanted it back, and eventually they got it back-ish. And then eventually he segued into the chaps look. It's neither here nor there. We can have a whole episode talking about.
Did I also see Seth Rollins rocking the chaps look the other day? Is that a thing? Did he change over to complete, like, not chaps, but like loose pants rather than like tight tights?
I think so. I think he has, but I don't know if that's like here to stay, right? Because he changes his stuff so much. So we'll kind of wait. We'll keep you posted, folks, on that. But no, I thought that was Elimination Chamber again. Anytime you can have something new, right? Like something that's innovative. And that was a cool one. Seeing Rob Van Dam be a part of that was really cool as like a hardcore Van Dam fan.
Didn't he shatter like Triple H's like throat or something?
Yeah, definitely crushed his trachea. The Elimination Chamber was not made to be wrestled in. It was stupid.
And let's give credit where credit was due. That is our dear good friend. And if you missed the episode, go check it out. But that was an Eric Bischoff thing, man. The Elimination Chamber felt like.
That was a kayfabe Eric Bischoff thing. But yeah, I got you.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
But go check out that show. Last week's show was phenomenal.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff, great guest. I was so happy to have him on. Joe Hendry the week before that. It's cool, man.
Now you got our mugs for another week. Sorry, guys.
Now you got us. I've got my two other ones, so I'm gonna save my favorite for last. Okay.
Sure. I guess I'll save my favorite for last too. Yeah, I guess I have. Yeah, I listed 3. I have 2 more. Yeah, I mean, again, they're not appealing, I don't think, to the common wrestling fan. I'll just start.
This is to you. This is your fandom. Hashtag MyFandom. MyFandom.
There you go.
MyFandomApp.com.
Just because I was there and you felt like you didn't see it coming, but The Rock and Cena being a team in MSG in 2011 one of my favorites.
That was my next one.
I was there, and it was cool, man. It was very cool to see. And again, the crowd, MSG crowd, to see The Rock do his thing. And remember, they're trying to build a year's worth of stuff, right? Never before, never again. You know what I mean? Like
until the next year, yeah.
Until the following year.
Once in a lifetime.
Always a lifetime. Actually, more than once in a lifetime. But
the first match was once in a lifetime. You only get the first one time in your lifetime, and then
very true. But yeah, just for the fact that I was there for that one, it's my fandom, right? It's something that I'll never forget, because again, if you're not a fan in the 90s, which I was, but I didn't get to frequent too many live events, so to see The Rock in action live was dope for me. Yeah. So, and again, it was a cool pay-per-view overall. And obviously
that was a big one for me too, seeing The Rock. Obviously I was down in Florida actually watching it. But seeing The Rock return here, that was another one who was like, at that time, it was very much, he was like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like he wasn't leaning into The Rock. Even his gear, if you remember, had the Brahma Bull on the front and the back. It didn't say The Rock. That lasted once, and then he became The Rock again, But just seeing him, because this is the time period, now everybody looks at The Rock as this guy who's this monster, muscled up, That wasn't the dude that we knew. I mean, in real life, The Rock was always a massive human being and muscular, and if anybody ever met him, even when he was Rocky Maivia, he was just gigantic. Yeah. But on TV, Rock was never presented to us as this muscled up, giant guy like that. So for him to come back then and just see that presentation, now you were seeing the Fast and the Furious guy back in the ring. You were seeing this new version of The Rock that you didn't think you'd ever see in wrestling again. and now he's back. Man, that was incredible. But you want me to give you my number one?
Yeah, go for it. I was gonna, fine, let's do it.
Okay, and this is again my fandom, right? This is for me. A lot of factors that lead into this being my favorite of all time.
It's definitely not the same as mine.
1996.
Wow. Yeah.
1996, Madison Square Garden, debut of Rocky Maivia.
Wow.
Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Bret's return.
That's a top 5 match maybe ever.
With the orange flame looking gear and stuff.
Gear.
But Bret coming back. And then Shawn Michaels versus Sid, with Sid beating Shawn Michaels for the world title. It was, and I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan too, at that point. But just seeing that, a lot of things can stand out there. Flash Funk, which I know seems kind of funny. Yeah, it seems kind of funny now to be like, oh my God, Flash Funk. But I was a big Too Cold Scorpio fan from ECW, from WCW. So I was like, oh man, this is crazy. Farouk, this was the debut of what we would all know as the Nation of Domination Farouk. This was the first time people saw him without the silly gladiator gear.
Yeah, the gladiator gear never did it for me.
No, so this was like the kickoff of that. But when you look at just the breadth of talent that was on that card, and just, it was also that time in where my fandom was. I remember getting the 4-pack action figures of the Survivor Series action figure set that had the Ultimate Warrior in there, even though he was gone by then. But it was like that was.
Was that also Goldust's debut?
Not his debut, but he was in the match, yeah.
Intercontinental. Oh, with The Rock. Okay,
yeah.
never mind.
But just all that stuff, and I just felt like 96 and 97 are my favorite. Like that whole run. I actually just recently started watching those again. Like when I do cardio, like that's what I watch. And I started back at January of 1996, which, whew, man, they hadn't hit their stride yet with the Raw Bowl. If you think you can guess how many terrible football puns Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler could fit into one match, you would be wrong by a mile. Go and listen to it. It is the worst thing I've ever seen.
What is this? Is Monday Night Raw in 96?
The Raw Bowl. The first annual Raw Bowl is what they kept saying. It was also the last. It was, but the canvas was green and looked like it had yard lines on it. It was, dude.
I don't remember
the first Raw of 1996.
I'm going to watch it literally today.
But 96 was the transition from the really kind of cringe wrestling time into what would begin to become the Attitude Era. To me, I mean, 97 is the best year in WWF ever. But so to me, I look at, now I won't say the 97 Survivor Series because of what happened with Bret Hart, but also because the show itself kind of sucked. The gang rules.
Yeah. It left a lot to be desired.
Yeah. It really, I think Survivor Series 96 they were firing on all cylinders at that point. They were just getting started. It was the debut of The Rock. You had Stone Cold in there with Bret. There was stuff happening. Furnace and LaFon were there,
Shit. You knew, like, when you watched that one from, like, start to finish, you're like, they're on to something.
Oh, you're looking at a blue chipper here.
The blue chipper.
Yeah.
There's The Rock. Yeah, no, I remember that.
So what's your number one?
Now, I wish I would have. I don't think it's my number one, like, overall, but I will say, as a recency bias, knowing that wrestling has been white hot lately, you got to go with 2023. Last year, I mean, just the return of CM Punk, the return of Randy Orton. You're looking at that pay-per-view at the end of the night and saying, holy shit, this roster is so loaded. What are they going to do with all these people? And you had the Sammy Uso stuff. You had all this. It's just a lot of stuff crammed into one pay-per-view.
Well, Sammy Uso was the year before that.
I thought it was. So what was the War Games last year?
War Games last year was the return of Orton. He came back,
right?
Cody, and all this. Yeah.
Right.
But no, I was actually going to say 2022 was that's an honorable mention for me too. With that War Games with the Bloodline and Sammy, and that was when Sammy like really showed them like he's legit, and that's like when, you know. And an interesting thing I remember people like pointing out. This is really interesting. It's never been mentioned again, and I don't think it really was anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember people pointing out for like a moment online that everybody was raising up the ones at the end, except for Solo. And I remember people were like, oh, Solo didn't raise up the one. And then I remember other people would be like, but it's Solo. He was just kind of, Taz, just kind of stood there with his arms crossed. I don't know. But,
like I said.
No, last 2 years have been solid with War Games introduction a few years back. And, yeah.
Are you cool? Are you as we wrap up the Survivor Series talk, are you cool with this being the new way of Survivor Series where War Games is going to be a thing? Or do you think it's just going to fizzle out and let's get back to some 5-on-5 traditionals? Do you like this model?
I do. I love the traditional Survivor Series, but I feel like we're not in that time anymore. When we were in the Superstars and Wrestling Challenge days, you didn't really see these guys interact very much. They wrestled, these big stars wrestled enhancement talent. So when you would see something like Survivor Series and see all of these guys teaming together against this group of other guys teaming together, it was like, man, worlds were colliding. Holy crap. Seeing all the baby faces be friends with each other and seeing the heels work together. It was really cool because you didn't see it that much. Now, these guys wrestled each other on TV 150 times before we even get to the event, just in the last month. So, to me, I do think we needed to up the stakes. I also love the fact that it is this 5-on-5, not elimination, but that we're bringing in War Games, which is something that has, historical value to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think, I think it's cool. It's an evolution while still paying homage to the past. And I think, look, one thing I will say is any Survivor Series that featured a team wearing a blue t-shirt and a red t-shirt automatically disqualified from my list. That was the worst. It was how do you make a star look like a jobber? Put a branded t-shirt on them.
You say that, I raise you the Survivor, I believe it had to have been Survivor Series where Bret Hart brought his fucking entire family to wrestle with him. It was
loved it.
Brothers
all in the singlets.
Never stepped foot in the ring. Felt like they never stepped foot in the ring. It's here comes this one, and Stu is in the side.
Yeah, I mean, look, Keith made you question things with the mustache, right? But and I always remember thinking there's Bruce had to have the lightning bolts on the side of his. And it's Bruce, no one cares about you. But I thought that was really cool. And interestingly, what's that?
The King's, was it against the King, Jerry the King's Knights that night? Or
well, yeah, but then Jerry Lawler had a little oopsie with the law, and so it ended up being Shawn Michaels and Jerry Lawler's Knights. It didn't really work out well.
Okay.
But and then Owen Hart, fun fact, that match set the stage for Owen Hart's gear moving forward, because Owen used to always wear the long tights and the tank top as the Rocket. Well, there was also the MC Hammer pants, but it was Blue Blazer or the Rocket. It was the long tights and the tank top. And then it's very well done. And then he switched to the singlet, just wearing the short, and that was it. He stayed that way forevermore. And,
so Survivor Series has such a massive impact on a lot of these stars going forward. I hope you guys enjoyed our little walk down memory lane there. Plenty more Survivor Series stuff to get into as the weeks go by, because we are in Survivor Series mode. It is technically, I know this is kind of crazy. I know people say the road to WrestleMania starts around the Royal Rumble, but I think the seeds are planted around Survivor Series, and I think that this is going to be a good one. Be sure to stay tuned to the Wrestling Hour, because I believe me and Josh are going to at least give a little bit of a pre-show of Survivor Series.
Yep.
We also have a lot of cool, very, very big opportunities coming up in November. that we'll disclose when we're, I guess, allowed.
Next week, I believe. Next week, we'll be making a major announcement.
And not one that Tony Khan calls a major announcement.
No.
This is like a really big major announcement for us.
This is going to be real fun for us and real fun for all of you. We're looking forward to this. It is a pre-show that Dave and I are going to be hosting, and we're going to talk all about that next week.
Hell yeah.
And then we'll talk more about the pre-show leading into Survivor Series. Everybody does their post-show, but we want you guys to hang out with us for a pre-show, and I think we might even go live.
I think that's a necessity.
I think we're going to go live. So we'll talk more about that next week.
We'll talk about that, and we'll talk to our good friends at Ad Free Shows and see how we want to work all that out. So hope you guys enjoyed another episode of The Wrestling Hour for Dave Sturchio, Josh Shernoff. Enjoy the rest of your week. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, don't choose your friends based off of any kind of political things. Choose your friends based off of Brett or Sean.
Yes.
Really. It's really the harder debate to have, and I think that that's one that we're going to have to just take to the grave. So
yeah. Only choose them based off of whether they support terrible people or not. But no, that's it. That's it.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.